heart of the Appalachian Mountains, something ancient lingers. Whispers in the fog, footsteps on empty trails, and shadows that don't belong. Haunted mysteries buried in Appalachia's past and still haunting its present. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and I still live here. Growing up, we were told a certain set of rules that had been passed down throughout generations and generations over hundreds of years to help keep you safe when you're out in the mountains. Number 1, close your curtains and blinds at night and lock all your windows and doors. Number 2, if you see something weird, no you didn't. If you hear something weird, no you didn't. Number 3, if you hear somebody calling your name from the woods and you know that that person is not in the woods with you at that time, you heard nothing. Number 4, don't whistle, and the same thing goes for if you hear somebody whistling, no you didn't. 5, never go out in the woods alone, especially after dark. Number 6, if you're out in the woods and everything falls silent, like all the wildlife, the bugs and the birds, and the wind stops blowing, if everything just suddenly gets still, that's a good sign that you should probably turn around and make your way back wherever you came from. Number 7, don't run. And that one really puts y'all in a tizzy, but for real, don't run. If you're being chased by something, don't run. I don't have to believe these rules. They're just rules that have been passed down throughout hundreds of years over generations and generations in my family to help keep you safe when you're out in the woods alone. You might not believe me now, but come spend a night alone in the woods in the Appalachian Mountains and see if you change your mind. The energy shift from daylight to dark is crazy. If you know, you know.
I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. Many of my patients lived off the grid and did not have running water or electricity. Oftentimes, I did not have cell service or GPS to where I was going because it was such a desolate area. So I would have to navigate myself to the patient's house using the compass in my car and a map. So many years ago, I'm working in a very isolated area. It's just at the end of autumn, towards the beginning of winter, and the ground is at its favorite phase. I love it when the ground is frosty and crunchy and the leaves are under your feet and the sun is shining through the clouds, and it's just like the perfect day. And I was like, it's going to be such a wonderful Friday. It is chilly outside. Like I'm saying, I don't know, probably 30, 40 degrees. It's like sweater weather, right? It's like my prime. And many of the patients that I see, like I said, don't have electricity or running water. It's not uncommon for these people to have like a water collection system, or maybe they have a generator that they use intermittently. Sometimes they have outhouses, and it's very often that they heat the house by fireplace or wood burner. So I arrived at this person's home. It is that situation where they don't have running water and they don't have electricity, and it is very cold in the house. And so I just figured, like, you know, they have a wood burner or whatever, but there was nothing burning. It was probably like 30 or 40 degrees in the house. And I don't usually expect it to be this chilly in the homes. So I usually throw on like my little Columbia jacket, and it gets me from the car to the house, right? I don't want to be very bulky. I don't want to carry germs from house to house. And in addition, I don't want to sit in someone's house in a full winter coat. I want them to think that I'm like cold and brewed, you know? Anyways, this person acknowledges it right off the bat that it's cold. They're like, why don't you let me get you some coffee, some tea? It's very chilly in here. You know, I'm sure you just can't stand it. And I'm like, no, thank you. I'm fine. Really, everything's fine. Now, setting-wise, we're in like kind of like a little cabin. I'd say it wasn't a log cabin, but it was very cabin-esque, if that makes sense. And one person lives there, and they are quite old. Don't actually look very old, though. You know, I always ask these people what they do because I aspire to be quite old and look good. Like, this person looked very young. So we're chatting and starting the visit, and again, this person goes, let me get you some coffee. Let me get you some tea. You look like you're just freezing. And again, I am freezing, but I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to say anything. And I'm starting to get fidgety. Like, I'm really cold. And I have my hair tie. I like to sometimes wrap my hair tie, my black hair tie. You know what I'm talking about, like around my thumb a few times. And there's always a little bit of hair around my hair ties. I know, I shouldn't rip them out, but I do. This is pertinent to the story. So I'm fidgeting around, I'm playing with my hair tie, it has some hair on it, right, whatever. And then this person finally is again like, you look like you're freezing. Let me get you some coffee or some tea. And finally I'm like, okay, I mean, what could it hurt, right? So I distinctly remember they bring me this coffee, they bring themselves some coffee, they bring me some coffee in like a little mug. It was kind of like a teacup. And I like put my hair tie down like right next to my mug on the table, and we're sipping the coffee and we're talking. Now we're midway through, almost halfway through the visit, and nothing has really gone off task. Like, we're getting things done. We're having a very productive visit. I've explained a couple of things. We're talking about going back on one of the medications that had been discontinued. And this person starts talking about, oh, to be young, and your hair is so thick, it's so beautiful. What do you do with your skin? And I'm like, it's crazy that you're saying that, because I was just looking at your skin and I was looking at your hair and like your age, and you just look so good for your age. Like, it's wildly impressive. You must be doing something right. And they just laughed and they were like, no, nothing in particular. So we get done drinking our coffee, and I have a teacup here for a brief but important demonstration. And it's going to explain to you what went so wrong with this visit. I have my cup. I am drinking out of my cup. You know, I like to wear lipstick. I usually wear lipstick. I put my cup down, okay? It's not even empty all the way. The person picks up my cup, takes my lipstick, and licks my lipstick off the cup. At this point, I'm like, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm trying to control my eyebrows because I'm still in this person's house and I don't really know what to make of it. It was odd, but okay. They do not address this action at all. They just licked my lipstick off the side of the mug, of the cup I was drinking out of, didn't drink any of the contents, and just put it down, and they're just looking at me, listening, as if nothing had happened. We finished up the visit a few minutes later, and I'm like, okay, thank you for having me. Very nice to meet you. I'm glad we got all of this done. And I go to reach out to grab my hair tie, because, I was fiddling with it. I'm freezing. And my hair tie is gone. Like, my hair tie that I had my hair tied up with, it's gone. Now, I have one in my hair, right? 'Cause I always have one and I usually have a spare. So I'm like, I know it was here. I know for a fact. And now my brain is going into overdrive trying to figure out why this lady decided to consume my lipstick and steal my hair tie that had a sample of my hair on it. So I decide I'm out. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. People are strange. They do strange things. Sure, I'm sure I have a tendency to overthink it, but one thing I'm not going to do is wait around to figure out why these weird things are happening. Why? Why are you consuming my cosmetics and taking my hair tie with my hair on it? I turn around. I'm going to leave the house. We're walking past the wood burner on my way out of the house, and she actually stops while I'm on my way to the door to light the wood burner, to turn the heat in the home on. And I'm like, well, this person has a way to heat the home. Why is it 30 to 40 degrees in here if you have a way to heat the house? And then I'm thinking about the situation and how many times she was like, oh, are you cold? You look like you're freezing. Oh, have some coffee to warm yourself up. Ma'am, did you just freeze me out to get me to drink your coffee so that you could lick my lipstick off my cup? Because it's starting to feel like I've been played. At this point, I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't want to know what's happening with my hair. I don't know why you wanted to consume my lipstick. I have no desire to stand here and figure it out. So I walk out of the house and I get into my car. Now, I always leave paperwork with a patient. It is not necessarily impossible for some of these people to have phones. It depends. Like I said, some people have generators where they'll be able to turn on the generator, charge a battery. They can have a phone in the house, whatever. But I don't leave my personal number with anybody. Very rarely, I guess. So they have a company phone number, right? They can call and then the company gets hold of me, but I have to be in an area where there is service. So sometimes I'm not getting calls from people till like hours after I see them. That is if they need to get hold of me. So my company gets a hold of me way later in the day and it's like, hey, we have someone on the line for you. They've been trying to get a hold of you. Say that you left something at their house. And so I'm talking to the person that works for my company and they're like, can we send the call through? Someone says you left something. And I'm like, who? I'm like, yeah, fine, send them through. I hope I didn't leave anything. And it's this person. And they're like, oh, honey, you left something here. And I'm like, what did I leave? And they're like, oh, you left like your paperwork here. And I'm looking in my bag. I'm looking at my like I have a box in the back of my trunk where I kind of organize things and I have little bags of each. It doesn't matter. The point is I'm very organized. And I would have noticed if something was missing. So I'm going through my stuff and I'm like, I'm not missing anything. And this person is insisting, like, you left something in my house, you need to come back and get it. So I tell her, no, I'm terribly sorry. You must be mistaken. I didn't leave anything at your house, but I appreciate you calling and reaching out and letting me know that you think I left something. Again, she's insisting. I politely say, I apologize. I didn't leave anything at your home and I don't need to come back to retrieve anything. I also tell the company the same thing. But it was a very strange encounter, and I have no idea why she expected me to, stop. like hours later and come back to her home to pick up this stuff that I did not leave anything there. That experience was absolutely wild. And again, nothing necessarily happened, but the whole licking my mug situation, that just really gave me the creeps, and it was gross.
This happened when I was probably in 5th grade. My parents got really heavily into ministry and wanting to do community outreach and stuff. And so I grew up in a really small town. I think it's important to reiterate that. It was very old, about 7,000 people. So the downtown area was just like a couple of old buildings. There's really not much down there. So they had rented out one of these older buildings downtown, and they had turned it into this like worship coffee thing. So every weekend or whatever, we would stay open really late and people would come and pray and worship and have free coffee and all this stuff. So one night we were there and it was pretty late. I don't remember how late, but I remember it was really dark outside. So I would say maybe around like 9 or 10. And so my best friend at that time, her parents also went to that church. And so we were always hanging out when they were there, and they were there that night, and we got bored and we were like, let's go play outside. So we go outside. Our parents are fine. They know we're outside because we're just right outside the building. And like I said, there's no one else downtown. It's like just empty. And so we stay where we can see everyone because there's big windows and we're just right in front. But I look across the street and I actually like get chills remembering it because it's just so weird. And I see this really tall, dark figure, and it doesn't look like a person. Like immediately I know it's not a person because it looks shadowy, but it's this tall, dark, skinny figure, and it has a top hat, and it's walking down the street heading towards us. And immediately I get chills and I'm like, no, like I need to leave, but I don't want to say anything to my friend because I think I'm imagining it because I can tell it's not a person. So I'm like, hey, let's go inside. So she's like, immediately, yeah, let's go inside. Like she didn't argue with me at all, which I also thought was weird. And then when we got inside, I was like, hey, did you see that? Because I swear I just saw something, and like that's what freaked me out. And she looks at me and she goes, yes, the guy with the top hat. And immediate chills everywhere. It was like, you saw him too? And we both couldn't believe what we saw because we both said that it didn't look like a person, and it was so weird. It was so freaky and creepy. And part of me wonders if it had to do with how much like worship and stuff was going inside the building, if something like evil was lurking outside. It was just weird.
This is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life, and I wasn't even planning on making a video today, but I feel like I need to get out of my system because I have been welling up with tears and having full body chills from being scared. If you know me in real life, that never happens to me. So I feel like I just need to get out of my system. So this is that story. This happened 4 years ago. I was a freshman in college and I was talking to this boy at the time, and he caught me when I was coming home for the weekend from college, and he asked if he could take me stargazing. I say yes. He picks me up. It's maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night. He drives me to the state park specifically because I had never been before. And specific to note about this state park next to my hometown, it isn't, when I say in the middle of nowhere, I legitimately mean in the middle of nowhere. The closest gas station is like multiple miles away. Nobody lives near there. Yeah, so we get there. He originally parks in front of this watchtower. We're walking up the watchtower. Something to note about me, you're gonna learn about two of my fears today. I am afraid of heights. The tower starts shaking from the small amount of wind, and I immediately am like, hey, I don't like this. We're about halfway up. I don't like this. Let's go down. So he's like, okay, I actually thought you might be scared, so I have an alternate way for us to go look at the stars, but we have to walk through the woods. Usually, and before I get any comments about that, I know, okay? I know. The only reason why I went is because he was like, it's like a minute and a half through the woods. Perfect. A minute and a half. No worries. I shouldn't have listened to him because it was a 10-minute walk, if not more. It is so dark in those effing woods that you cannot even see your hand in front of your face. I'm walking through the woods. I'm doing fine. My other fear is the dark. Okay, I'm a full-grown woman. I am exponentially scared of the dark. Like, unrealistically scared of the dark. We're walking, we hit a fence, and not just any fence, a barbed wire fence. By this time, my eyes are fully adjusted in the dark, and out in the distance, I can see a barn. Right next to the barn, I see a big silo, and if you don't know what a silo is, it's just this big metal structure that holds corn where I'm from. A lot of farmers have them, and I immediately ask him, is this someone's land? He doesn't really answer me, and I'm like, no, seriously, is this someone's land? Because I'm not going to get shot tonight. they're not going to ask you on their 5 acres of land what you're doing on their land. They're just going to shoot you because they don't know who you are at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Or I guess what you are. So finally he tells me it's someone's land, and I'm like, I'm not trespassing on someone's land. Like, no thanks. 3 strikes and you're out. I've walked through the woods. I have tried to conquer my fear of heights, and I'm walking in the dark. No. This is no. So finally he's like, okay, fine. Like, we'll go back to the car and I'll drive you home. As we're walking, I don't know what it was. The hair on the back of my neck suddenly stood up. I start to feel like someone is watching me. And all my girlies with anxiety like me, you know what I'm talking about. But this was different. This was different. This was like burning 2 holes in the back of my head because they're staring so hard. And it was so bad that I kept turning around and there was literally no one there. My eyes are fully adjusted at this point. There is no one there that I can see. And I start walking so close to this dude that I'm flat tiring his shoes, which means I'm like stepping on the back of his shoes every couple of steps, and he's getting super mad at me. But eventually I just grab his arm and I say, there is something out here with us. And I made sure to whisper it because at the end of the day, if there is a living human being out there, I don't want them knowing that I feel like something is wrong. And number 2, it was really quiet out there, like deafeningly silent. And he immediately tells me, like, Elena, it's okay, like your anxiety, it's okay. I understand that you're scared of the dark, but everything's gonna be fine. Like, there's no one else out here. There's no other cars. Everything's gonna be fine. We take probably 3 steps and start to hear rustling. And immediately, this is when my breath literally is taken away. Like, I'm like, I can't breathe. And again, he's like rubbing my back and he's like, it's okay. Like, there is seriously no one else out here. You're gonna be fine. We're walking for maybe a minute. We were flashlights out. From our right, a rock doesn't tumble out. It is thrown out into the middle of the path that we're walking. I mean, like, right in front of us. Like, someone threw it. This was a game time decision, right? Right. I left him in the woods. I ran so fast, I left him in the woods. I have never ran faster in my entire life. And all my running girlies, I ran for a minute. Sprinted for a minute. I get to his car and I'm trying the door handles and I immediately am going through all these scenarios. I'm like, what am I going to do if if there is a person in the woods? So I'm trying the door handles. I'm going to like literally every door and all of them are locked. And all of a sudden I hear him giggling and like jogging out of the forest. And he was like, that rabbit really scared me. A rabbit? And I probably look disgusting at this point, but I legitimately lost my mind on him. I was like, since when do rabbits pick up rocks and throw them at people? Since when has that ever happened? But anyways, we get in the car, we drive off. The whole time, I'm asking him, what do you think that was? What do you think that was? Do you think that was a real person? Do you think that was a ghost? What was that? And I don't think he took me very seriously at the time because he was like, whatever. Needless to say, I never talked to him ever again. And now I will elaborate on why it's so scary to me. I don't think that was paranormal by any means. Because when you experience something paranormal, it's almost like an instantaneous thought, right? You're trying to rationalize. You're trying to go through the scenarios in your head on how it is possible that happened. This was different. I have never felt so fearful in my entire life. And let me ask you this. When you get home late at night, maybe after a night out, or when you get home from work, school, etc., what do you think you're going to see when you turn the light on in your room? Probably some decor, probably your bed, your desk, maybe a pet lives there, I don't know. But you anticipate on what you're going to see because you're prepared for what you're going to see. I'm not comparing bedrooms in the woods, but I was not anticipating someone else to be out there because there's no cars out there. There was no way for someone to get out there if they didn't get there before the sun went down, if you catch my drift. And I think there's something, at the end of the day, there is something so deeply frightening about knowing someone was watching you the whole time. And there is something equally as frightening knowing you never saw them. And then you have to think about a plethora of things. Like, why was that person following two teenagers in the woods without making their presence known? How did that person get out into the middle of the woods in the middle of the night? I left a key part of the effing story out. When we got there and we got our little pass, the state trooper or whoever was working there told us that we were the last people going in. So be that as you may, moral of the story, you never know.
In high school when I was younger, something pretending to be my mom came into my room late at night, and it wasn't her. So my family actually lived in a haunted house. It was crazy because we built the house, and there was nothing on the land before. But literally on the very first day that we moved in, my mom and dad and I brought boxes to the house and left my sister there while we went back to our old house to pick up more boxes. And by the time we came back with the new boxes, my sister was trying to take the screen off of our window and climb out of the house because she said she heard men in the kitchen talking, so she had locked her bedroom door. And yeah, she was the only one in the house at the time. So let's fast forward a little bit. It's October of 2013. Stuff had been happening in the house. My sister and I kept telling my parents that there's things that are going on, but they weren't really believing us. It was kind of like a horror movie. So it's October 2013. I'm sitting in my bedroom. Here's my room. My sister's room is right here. A long hallway right here, then an open floor plan with a kitchen, living room, and then my parents' bedroom on the other side of the kitchen. So I heard somebody moving around dishes and stuff in the actual kitchen area. So I thought it was my mom. I said, "Hey, Mom, are you out there?" And I heard my mom say, "Yeah," like exactly like that. And I'm like, "Could you bring me a glass of water?" Because I was already in bed. I don't know why I asked that, but I heard my mom respond back and say, "Yeah, I'm coming," like something like that. So I'm thinking I'm getting some water. My mom's going to come, bring it to me. And I heard that it's so crazy. I hear her walking down the hallway all the way up to my bedroom door. And right when the footsteps get to my bedroom door, silence. Keep in mind, it's pitch black. I'm just in my bed. And I hear my mom, or what I think is my mom, get down on the floor on all fours. I had carpet in my bedroom. And it was like she scurried around my bed, like going around my bed. And I literally was like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And I got up and I took my phone out and turned my flashlight on. The moment I turned the flashlight on, noises stopped completely. And I'm like, oh my God, I get chills. There's nobody in here. There was literally nobody in the room. And shortly after that, my sister came out of her bedroom and was asking what the happened. She had heard my mom's voice as well, and she heard me screaming. And that's when we both went and got my parents. And yeah, the story of that is actually insane. We ended up having psychics come to try and cleanse the house. It didn't work. There was a time when my dad thought someone broke into the house, so he got a weapon and was walking around the house trying to make sure no one was in there. No one was in there. Tons of different stuff. We also discovered there might be pioneer settlers buried under the grounds of the house. And yeah, I could go on for days and days with ghost stories, but that was definitely the creepiest. Hearing my mom's voice and it walking up to my door and then crawling around on all fours. That's it. I don't know if people really believe still. I don't know if you're believing this, but that 100% happened to me. Because once you have an experience like that, you're kind of in the world and you can't get out of it. At least I couldn't.
When I was young, my parents bought 130 acres to build a house. And then my mom decided that she wanted to decorate that house with antique furniture. And that's where we messed up. We didn't live there long. We started seeing some shadow figure outside the front door. And my family didn't really believe in ghosts, so none of us really said anything about it until probably a year later. One of us in the family was like, "Okay, does anybody else see this outside? I keep seeing it past the window." Everybody in the family was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I see it," but I thought I was crazy. The lady that owned the land before us, her name was Lucille, so of course my dad named her Lucille, and we all just refer to her as Lucille now. But we were all like, you know what, she seems nice, she minds her own business, she stays outside, no big deal, just leave her alone. Until I got pregnant. I was 17, so I still lived with my parents, and she decided to welcome herself inside. She would stay very close to me. She was always at every corner I was. I would take a shower, and I could see her out of the corner of my eye, standing in the doorway, watching me. Every time I showered, the whole time I was pregnant. No big deal, whatever. Watching after me, being nice. And then I gave birth. Still, no big deal. She was next to me in the baby. I thought maybe she was just a sweet ghost. And then one day, I laid my baby down. I set the camera up. And I went and took a shower, and I was watching the camera while I took a shower, and I saw her laying in the crib next to him. So I ran out the bathroom, and I was like, look, girl, too much, too far, you need to go. You gotta leave. And she listened. She was very sweet. She listened. She moved upstairs to a spare room and didn't bother anybody else, but she would stand in the window and just watch everybody. Literally everybody knows about her. Delivery people, lawn care people, like literally everybody knows about Lucille. Then we ended up moving and I never saw her again.
A lot of people think that I'm just wild when I talk about stuff like this, but when you have parents and grandparents and great-grandparents that have literally grew up in the hills and hollers of southeastern Kentucky in the Appalachia, honey, you're going to hear some stories. This obviously occurred, like, I guess before the internet and computers. Like, you know, my daddy has told this story for as long as I can remember, and rest his soul, you know, like, okay, so anyhow, back in, like, I think he said it was like 91, him and my mama was leaving my grandma's house, and that's, you know, up a holler here in southeastern Kentucky. So anyhow, there was like a lot of forest fires going on at this time and stuff like that. So anyhow, him and my mama was leaving my grandma's house, and they were backing down the driveway or something like that, and he said there's like this creature, I swear to God, he said there's this like really tall creature like thing, and it had reddish eyes, and it had this horrible stench, like it had wings like kind of like an owl, like, and Daddy always told this story. And then, you know, like when the Mothman started like coming about and around, like where, you know, we didn't have TV for the longest time growing up. So reason being we didn't have TV, my grandma was a Mennonite, and my daddy wasn't 100% always raised that way because my granny didn't convert till like the 80s or whatever. But anyhow, you know, Daddy started hearing things about the Mothman, and he swore till the day, you know, till his death, that was the creature that those people had described that him and my mom had seen. And he swears that it just kept coming closer and closer to the car. Like it didn't, I don't know, it wasn't there, but they said it had this terrible smell, and it like, you know, it looks like the Mothman, like what the Mothman looks like in these stories and the way these people describe. So, you know, I've done research and stuff like that, and I've read a lot of sightings of around that time frame of people citing that same mysterious creature. You know, back, honey, I've read it as far back as the 70s. But what's so funny and what's so coincidental, and this is my daddy, and this person's unrelated. They don't know nobody. My daddy's been dead 15 years. So I met this person through work, and this person was from the same area, you know, right down the road where my daddy and my mama grew up, and where they seen this creature at. This woman talked about when they were little, they were hoeing the garden or whatever, and they called this a blank hollow. I'm not going to say the name just because I don't want to give away the location and I don't want to give away the area, but it's a blank hollow. So anyhow, this old woman claimed that when they were youngins, that they were hoeing the cornfield and something flew over. This big old thing, it was like an evening, it was cool. This big old thing that my daddy described, the same thing he described to me, this old woman described from her childhood, and said that every year around the harvesting time that her parents and them had seen this thing.
I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. Many of my patients lived off the grid. In many cases, I didn't have cell phone service or GPS to navigate me to their homes, so I would use a map and the GPS in my car. People would get the time slot for their visit via mailer, and that's how they would schedule a visit. And the company I used to work for does not exist anymore. It has been dissolved, and I don't work for them anymore. I've been working in healthcare for many, many years, but this job that I did in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains, it's not the first time that I've had paranormal experiences. In fact, this goes way back to when I was a kid. I wouldn't say that it happens a whole lot anymore, and I think that's more of a choice than anything. But as a kid, I very much experienced quite a bit of paranormal activity. For example, when I was younger, still living at home, my mom kept the most beautiful garden in the backyard. She has a green thumb like you have never seen. And she used to tell me that she would see a little boy that would watch her garden. But when she went to look up and look at him, he was gone. And she used to say that he had blonde hair and little blue shorts and little suspenders, and he would seek her out in the yard and kind of stand by her, like wanting to be near her. So she starts talking about this in the summer, doesn't mention it for months, and then I come down and see her in the kitchen one day, and she tells me I saw the little boy next to the oven in the kitchen. And I'm like, he's in the house? And she said, yeah, I saw him in the house. Now, there is this saying or superstition that you should never have a welcome mat at your door because things can only come into your house if you're welcomed. I don't know if I believe that. I think this thing was just attracted to my mom and found its way into our house. And she just seemed to think it was very benevolent, like spirit of a child, whatever. She thought that it followed her around. She didn't mention it much after that. But the home life that we experienced in that home started to be quite chaotic. And we had a playroom downstairs, and I always felt like it had a little bit of a strange feel to it. We started having issues where we would plug things in, it wouldn't work, you would have the light on, it would turn off. We thought there was an electrical problem in the room because there were light bulbs that would explode. Eventually my mom had an electrician come out because all of the outlets seemed to be working, but you could plug things in and they wouldn't work. And the electrician ended up saying, I don't know, everything seems fine. I have no explanation for you. I guess you just have a ghost. And I was like, see, I'm not crazy. Now, the home was owned by doctors before my parents moved in, and they left all of their medical equipment upstairs in the attic, and then the house was vacant for 3 years until the last owner, who was in a facility, died. So I always felt like there was always a presence in the house before this, but after she said this little boy was in the kitchen, activity kind of kicked up a little bit. I started to see like this salt and pepper, staticky sort of disturbance that would stand in my doorway at night. Let's say you're watching TV, but there's nothing on TV, and you just see that kind of like white noise, sort of black and white. I'm seeing it in my doorway at night. And every night it starts to get a little bit closer until it's at the foot of my bed. And at this point, I'm not sleeping. I'm afraid to sleep anymore. I even told my sister and my brother, I'm like, I know you don't believe me, but if you really don't believe me, then switch rooms with me and you go in there. Because I don't want to be in there anymore. Because this thing is standing at the foot of my bed watching me sleep. And I can't tell what it is. I would wake up and my fitted sheet would be off the bed. I wasn't getting good quality sleep because I was afraid to fall asleep. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, this is done. Like, I can't have this. I'm like, you're scaring me. You need to leave me alone. Now, I had an antique bedroom set that was passed down to my grandmother and then was passed down to me. This is a very, very old bedroom set. It had a beautiful wooden sleigh bed and a beautiful vanity that my father restored. And then there was a mirror on the vanity, and this mirror was huge. Beautiful round mirror. My grandmother sat at it to get ready for her wedding day, and I sat down at it when I got ready after my wedding day. And I remember I woke up in the middle of one night, and I had this black and white salt and pepper static move to the side of my bed, and as I turned my head, it started to look like a little boy, and it walked in this terrible jerking movement, stepped up onto the chair that I sat down where I did my makeup, stepped onto the makeup desk, touched the mirror. The mirror had a very faint glow to it, and then it threw itself into the mirror. And it was strange. It was almost like I heard the mirror break. And I remember telling my mom, this must have been the very early hours of the morning. I remember laying there like paralyzed until I heard people moving. Someone else woke up in the house. And I remember telling my mom, I'm like, it's absolutely crazy. It's like the mirror had a light to it. I felt like I heard the mirror crash and it threw itself into the mirror. we didn't talk about it for years. I mean, this situation came and it went. It was just a scary little thing that happened to me, although I still was scared to sleep in that room after that. And everyone said I was nuts, but no one wanted to trade rooms with me. Well, then I had my first son, Max. And my mom had said he had just turned 3 years old. And I got him ready for his kindergarten pictures. And she turns to me and she looks like she just saw a ghost. And she goes, you know what? I'm like, what? She goes, that little boy that I used to see in the yard and in our house? I said, yeah. She goes, I think it was him. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, that outfit you put him in the blue shorts and the little suspenders and the white shirt. I said, yeah. And she said, he's blonde. I said, yeah. She goes, that's him. She said, that's who I used to see in the yard following me around that came into the house. And I'm like, I don't know, Mom. That makes no sense. You must have seen it wrong. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. To this day, I don't have a good explanation for it. It still gives me the creeps. But she's right. I did have him dressed in blue shorts, a white shirt, little blue suspenders, and he did have his blonde short hair. And my mom swears up and down that whatever came and followed her around was in what looked like my son. And to this day, that still kind of gives me the creeps.
A kid, about maybe 19, 20 years old, his father passed away, unfortunately. They had a log cabin in the middle of the woods. They barely went there. The last time they went, they had chopped down some trees and left the rest like 30 yards out. And it was very dense woods. But they stopped going up there. When his father passed away, his mom wanted to sell the property. He gets permission from his mom to go up there to get his head together. She says, that's fine, but when you come back, I'm selling it. So he gasses up his truck, grabs his rifle, his PlayStation, his German Shepherd Midnight. He heads up. But when he's heading up there, he stops to grab a bottle and a carton of cigarettes because he said whenever he's going through stress, that's the only time that he drinks, and that's also the only time that he smokes. He makes it up there, and the way they described this place was like a double-decker, nice, decent log cabin with a balcony, a sliding glass door up top, and a balcony. The middle part of the inside was wide open where you could see down over everything. All wood grain, but there was a staircase with a couple rooms. He said that he was going to keep the room shut that had the most memories in it, but he was going to sleep in the one that led out to the balcony. This is kind of what I imagined it to look like, the way that he was describing it. So he gets out there, he's checking the property. His closest neighbor's like a mile away. As they're walking, right, he's letting his dog sniff around. He sees footprints that look like human footprints, but he's confused because nobody should have been on his property, for one. He's in the middle of nowhere. So he's following the, prints. His dog's actually acting real funny, but he sees that the prints stop. His dog ends up taking off in the woods, and he's acting like a predator's nearby. He ends up calling him and getting him to come back. He doesn't go into the woods, but he gets close enough to get his dog to, come back to him, right? He's back in the cabin. He's hanging out playing video games, right? Now, he plans on staying, a few nights, probably the rest of the weekend. Come Monday, they're going to sell it, whatever. Just wanted one last time with his father's log cabin. In the process of all this, after gaming out, he ends up going and laying down. Now, he keeps going in and out on that balcony up top, smoking. But his dog kept acting real funny, right? Like he was growling and all this different stuff. But he lays down, he doesn't really think nothing of it. Now, this is where it gets really creepy. And he swears this is true. So one of the many trips as he's, going in and out, he ends up hearing something in the trees, but he's not sure what it is. So he's looking and he stops because he sees a person on the tree trunk or a branch, like a big, thick tree branch, right? But he's squatted down, holding still, and he's got his mouth and jaw hanging wide open. And it's way too, deep, far down. Like it should not be able to stretch like that, and it's holding still like it doesn't want him to see it, right? Now he realizes that his dog has been acting like this for this reason. So he heads back in the house, goes in the room where his firearm is, and he's freaked out and trying to figure out who the was just up in this tree, right? Within like a minute, he hears on his sliding glass door. Now, mind you, it's a double decker, so there's no ladder, there's no steps. Whatever this thing was climbing in trees also found its way up on a balcony that fast. The first thing he thinks is, since he's seen it, and since it's clearly seen him, it was coming to let him know it's seen him, and it was inviting him either to come out or letting him know it wants to come in. He then starts hearing footsteps on the roof. He said that he literally heard this thing walking on the roof. Now, after laying there the entire night without falling asleep, not one time, he said it stopped. The footsteps, the knocking, everything stopped. He said his dog would growl from time to time. He never went to sleep, neither one of them. When that sunlight came up, he packed his and he got in his truck and he left. But he said he was not going out there after what he just seen in this tree. He described it as having long arms, squatted down on the branch with his arms kind of hanging between his legs and the jaw, hanging open. He knew immediately something wasn't right, but it was like a humanoid. And the fact that he's in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains is just crazy to think about what the hell was. The fact that nobody barely goes to this log cabin made it even worse. But as he got to thinking about this, he understood why those footprints stopped right where they was. Because whatever it was clearly jumped up into a tree.
My experience living in the Appalachian Mountains. My house isn't very old. Like where I live, it's my grandparents' house. But it's not very old. Like my grandpa helped build it. And he's like 75. So nobody has died here or anything like that. Like we have lived here for a long time. But my uncle who helped build it, who also lived in it, did die. And more or less there are some like little things that have happened here and there here. But nothing that would be out of the ordinary. We just kind of laugh it off and are like, oh, it's Uncle Dan. Like, it's just my great uncle because he's the only one that like actively lived here and died not here, but like after we moved in here, he died, I don't know, when I was 12, 13, and we moved in here when I was 5. So, yeah, like my grandma had like a glass fruit bowl that was on the countertop in the kitchen, and it like somehow got knocked off the counter while they were asleep, but they heard it and woke up and they were like, oh, it's just Uncle Dan, whatever. My middle child will sometimes wake up and be like, oh, there's a ghost. Like, it could just be because of something that she's watched on TV, whatever. So I just kind of brush it off, like, not to disregard the fact that kids can see a lot more than we do as adults, but she's not like waking up absolutely terrified at night. And we all three, like me, my son, and my middle child, sleep up here. My daughter's room is downstairs in the room that used to be my room. My parents sleep right across from her. So, like, none of us have really experienced anything horrifying here. A couple weeks ago, I like freaked myself out because I was downstairs at like 2:00 in the morning I think I was getting a drink, and we have a pantry that's right beside of the entryway to our kitchen, and the kitchen is just like an open, like it's just an archway, so like there's a wall like right here, and say like this is where the pantry door is, like right behind the corner of this wall, and I thought that I had seen like somebody's hand like in that small space, and I was like, that's too small for anybody to actually be standing there, and it kind of freaked me out. So I was like, okay, what the whatever. More memorable things have happened when I was like a teenager, not here specifically, but down the road, like at the cemetery, there was a night where me and my friend, and we were like, I want to say 15, maybe younger, but we were like doing our makeup, like I had teased my hair up and whatever, and we were like, oh, we should go down to the cemetery or whatever and do ghost hunting, because this cemetery down here is old as but there's really not a lot of people buried there, because this is a really small town. Like, everybody that's buried there, somebody probably knows who they are, like, that still lives here. So, you know. So we decided to start walking down the road towards the dirt road that leads to the cemetery. I had kind of felt off about it, like, halfway through the walk, and it's not a very long walk, like, at all. It was pitch black. I'm telling you, it was like 12 o'clock in the morning. So our road kind of curves, like our driveway is here and it's like comes up. Then there's the fence and the regular road and it kind of goes like that way. But it's like a hill and it curves like all the way down. So the big curve that's like right down the road from the house, our house, once that big curve ends, there's a cutoff to a dirt road that goes like up beside of the main road. So we got maybe like halfway down the main road, and I was like, I don't really have the best feeling about this. Mind you, we were kids, so we're never really gonna feel the best about that. Like, we didn't have phones or cameras or like anything like that on us, because it was just like we just had flip phones. Like, that's how long ago this was. So we kept going despite the fact that I was feeling not good. And when we hit this dirt road, it just continued to get worse. Like, it sounded overly quiet. My other great uncle at the time lived in the house that was beside of the dirt road. So I was just like, whatever, like, if something happens, you know, he would probably hear us screaming or whatever and would be able to, like, intervene. So we kept walking, and when we got halfway to the, like, end of this dirt road, I stopped. Because I was like, okay, no, something's off here. And it was really dark. Like, there was only one street light, and it was, like, back towards where my uncle's house, the great uncle's house was. So it was like pitch black. We didn't have flashlights because we were dumb. We'll just put it that way. And I thought that I had seen movement in front of me. So I stopped and I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, it's just continuing to feel like I continued to feel more and more uneasy the further we got on this road. So when I thought I saw this movement, my friend stopped behind me, and she didn't know what I was seeing. She was like, basically like, why'd you stop? Like, huh? And when I tell you when I tell you that it looked like the silhouette of a tall man standing in front of me, like not very far in front of me, maybe a couple feet, maybe a little more than a couple feet. Like, it was enough for me to like see this person, but it wasn't enough for them to like reach out and touch me. And still to this day, I don't know if it was a person or not, because this whatever it was way too tall to be like a regular person. Like, when I say my current boyfriend is 6'8", almost, and this person had to be at least a few inches taller than him. He was tall. So when I tell you that when I saw this thing, I bolted the fuck out of there. I was gone. I had heels on that I had wore for Halloween that year, and they were like, they were like this, like they were boots. and they were like my Halloween costume boots because we were dressed up and everything. But we bolted the there. And I kept looking back at her to be like, come on, let's go. Like, let's get home. We got off of the dirt road. We got back to the house. And when we got back to the house, I was trying to tell her and my grandma what we saw because, like, we came back through the door hysterical. Like, I was freaking out, like, talking to my grandma about this and everything. And she was trying to, like, reassure me that maybe it was just, like, a homeless person or whatever because there are people here like that, I guess. And my friend told me that, like, later on that night, when she turned around at one point when we were, like, back on the main road around that curve, that she saw something crawling up the side of the hill, like, on all fours. Like, it wasn't an animal. It looked like a person. And I was just like, that's great. So we never did that again. And if you hear anything about Appalachia, just, yeah, know that it's probably real.
I don't know about y'all, but the scary stories involving kids are always the creepiest to me. Stephanie has 2 kids. They're now 17 and 14 years old. But back when they were 2 and 4 years old, they started seeing something and talking to something that they called the boy. Let's back it up a bit. There was one day when Stephanie remembers being home alone with her 2 kids, and at the time they were like 2.5 years old and 6 months old. The 2-year-old was napping, so Stephanie decided she was going to go take a shower, and she put the 6-month-old in like a bouncer seat in the bathroom with her. So outside her bathroom door, she had a small like miniature chest. There was a glass candle sitting on top of it, and it was just filled with pictures. When she got out of the shower and went to leave the bathroom, she noticed that the chest was flipped over sideways and the candle was shattered. Again, the 2-year-old was sleeping, and the baby was with her. Her husband was at work and she did have an older child, but they were at school. She was freaked out, but she never really figured out that mystery. She just cleaned up the mess and moved on with her life. Fast forward, and the 6-month-old baby is now 2 years old, and the 2-year-old is now 4. The 4-year-old started telling Stephanie stories about the boy that was in her baby brother's bedroom, saying, "The boy just wants to play, the boy told me to dump out the toys, the boy told me to draw on the wall," stuff like that. He was a 4-year-old and he had a very vivid imagination, so they just chalked it up to that. But as the youngest one started being able to talk more, he also started being afraid to sleep in his room, saying things like, "The boy won't leave me alone, the boy wants to play." I don't guess he started sleeping through the night until kindergarten, which I know isn't like super uncommon, but still. So fast forward again to when the kids are 3 and 5. We're in the living room playing with toys, watching TV, while Stephanie made some dinner in the kitchen right next to them. She could hear her daughter making the Barbies be mean to each other, and she was making her Barbies like be mean to the G.I. Joe doll that her son had in his hand. So Stephanie peeked around the corner and was like, "Hey now, let's not be mean to each other, you know, we need to be nice." She said what happened next was like out of a movie scene. Her daughter was sitting in the living room with her back turned towards her. She slowly turned just her head around to look at Stephanie, and she said in like a low growl voice, "I'm just doing what the boy wants us to do. He's the boss of this house." Stephanie said this was the most vivid memory that she had of them with the boy, and it really freaked her out. They moved out not long after that. Her children still bring up the boy when telling their own ghost stories. And just as a side note, there was some like crayon drawings in the youngest son's bedroom closet when they bought the house. They're all convinced that maybe this was his room.
I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and I'm only going to say this one time. If you've never had a flat tire, it doesn't mean your neighbor's never had a flat tire. I've got so many people commenting on my videos saying that you're lying, these things don't exist. Just because you've never experienced something does not mean it doesn't exist. There's a whole world out there. Appalachia is some of the oldest mountains in the entire world, and there are things that exist you've never seen.
If you ever felt the chill of something watching you, you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own encounter in the comments below. The mountains are watching. Are you? As always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.